Thank you, Evelyn. Thank you, everyone at the Missouri Review, and thank you, Jeffrey E. Smith, wherever you are, for your generosity. Thank you all for being here. It's really an honor. So I was asked to kind of talk a little bit about the process of the essay, and then I'm going to read a little bit of the first version of it. So, as Evelyn said, the essay is grappling with the challenges and the pleasures of materiality. And I wrote it as a response to what I see as sort of a dangerous rejection of the rich, meaningful, messy complexity of history and connections that can be found in material objects. This may seem strange in a society that is so glutted with useless stuff, but what I'm trying to do is to salvage meaningful matter from empty materialism and to revivify the connection between ideas, dreams, imagination, and the physical world, nature, bodies, art, and social action, and to sort of heal that rift, that ancient rift between spirit and matter. For me, objects are portals connecting us to each other and to the good and the bad of the past, and to all that humans have been curious about, have loved, have feared, desired, and dreamed about. While objects sometimes carry traces of acts and things that we might want to repress, our relationship with the material world, I hope, can actually be ethical, existentially engaged, not merely superficial, wasteful, or destructive. So, as Evelyn said, the essay explores the history of cabinets of curiosity and the craze for collection that began in the 16th century, and which was associated with voyages of discovery and colonialism. And it also explores the medieval reliquary, which is an elaborately decorative religious object that was made to house the remains of saints. So things like fingernails and bones and pieces of Christ's true cross. Both of these examples, because they are fraught with problems, serve as very juicy object lessons. So I wanted to use them to get into my own cognitive dissonance about these things, and also the cognitive dissonance I think that obtains in contemporary culture about these things, and also to redeem beauty and physicality from what I see as a sort of trend towards sterile minimalism. So, the making of the essay was also an object lesson in the relationship between ideas and materiality. I wrote it when I was staying in a beautiful 16th century French country house. And I was trying to write it, and I was also making this book. I make books, so as everyone said. So this is a little one. And so I had all the notes typed up, and I had them on my computer, but I just couldn't get to it. So I just couldn't touch it. So what I did was I found this big piece of paper, and I'm going to try to unfold it and show it to you a little bit. And if anyone wants to look at this later, you can. But so I hand wrote all the notes. And it's crazy, you know, but I just sort of hand wrote all the notes so that I could remember what I cared about. And there's like sections on iconoclasm and image veneration. This is a picture of a reliquary over here. All kinds of stuff, all the notes. And then I sort of, came back. I glued it into this book, folded it up, sort of like a map of my ideas. I don't know if I can fold this up, but I'll have to. Okay. So I put it on my desk in this beautiful house, 16th century farmhouse, and I looked at it a lot. And then I would go for my daily walks. And one day, I have to fold it because I'm going to read from the book, but anyway. One day I went out for my walk, and I came back and I wrote a letter to my friends back home in Vermont. And that letter, then I rewrote into this book, and then it became the beginning and the end of the essay. So what I'm going to do is just read a little bit from that, and it's the unrevised text that later became the essay. It's got the beginning and the end, but without revisions. So Here at the Maison Gaët-Sabert, where I am writing an essay on the spiritual and material properties of objects, Schatzkammer, and reliquaries, everything is a bearer of history. All of the earth, all the rocks, going back to the Paleolithic age, and the land worked and harvested here for centuries. The grapevines, the fig trees, the old stone houses with their cellars and attics. Yesterday, I worked in the garden with Francine, removing 10 years of ground cover and vines from an area outside the pressoir, so called because of the beautiful old giant wooden cask, which is a press for grapes, wine, and juice, which sits on its porch, and uncovering wild garlic and snails and small prodding new flowers. Everything here is bound or connected to the past via bloodlines, via deep ruts in the communal brain, like etchings on the face of the earth's memory, but going deeper to places we cannot see, but only vaguely feel. And Francine was born here in this house, and her family goes back for generations. Thus, that earth we were working was worked by her forefathers and foremothers over and over again, the same earth. In the Maison Library, which used to be a cafe where old men drank and sang together, where other kinds of vines go back to other kinds of spreading roots, bifurcating over vast geographic and disciplinary areas, ancient Greece, medieval France, 20th century German history and philosophy, Japanese courtly poetry, Arabo-Andalusian melodies. I picked up Freud's Civilization and Its Discontents, wherein he writes about the way our childhood selves are carried within our grown bodies, just as the ancient foundation of old cities may be imagined to still exist somewhere beneath the new structures. And Marcel Mauss's wonderful book, The Gift, about ancient and primitive gift exchange, called the potlatch in some traditions, and about the mana of objects, and a world wherein objects are not reduced to commodities bought and sold between strangers without any emotional, social, or spiritual bonds. The mana that passes through the object is alive, and its powers increase the more it is circulated. This reminded me of the power we sense in old things, old places, and in the late offspring of old families. The problem is that these lines of power can be cut, diminished, denigrated when they are used and abused in merely mercenary ways. When an object, a place, a person is cut off from the circulating energy of community, history, nature, the lifeblood of heritage and cultural exchange, it becomes sterile and loses its mana. I'm seeing how much this needed editing, but you know. Separated from the raw materials that made it, from the craftsperson who made it, the animal and natural materials of which it is made, the inspirations it echoes, an object becomes a mere thing. A person even becomes a mere thing with no meaning. Also, a place is robbed of its ancient magic insofar as its ancient trees, hearts, foundations, tales, myths, and songs are cut down and forgotten. It is so difficult to imagine a time when humans were not driven by merely economic ends. In buying and selling, we lay waste our powers, as Wordsworth had it. But the roots of such a time are still traceable, and we may uncover them, and we may cultivate them. In another, more popular book on the gift by Lewis Hyde, it is suggested that modern people actually like the commodification of objects and life because it gives them a sense of freedom from the group. Since gift exchange is a complex and fraught relationship, often dangerous and messy, it gives them a freedom from the commonality, the family, and the tribe. Thus, the free society is not so much about political freedoms as about a social freedom, a sense of autonomous self-determination, the freedom to leave the group and fend for oneself, the non-beholdedness of the capitalist commodity exchange. Like the way one may sometimes prefer a sterile, cold hotel to the awkwardness of staying with strangers who might become friends. While cleaning up after dinner, Francine and I agree that this sort of anonymity has its charms too, for a poet or artist or any person who wants to escape for a while from everyone she knows, to live in a foreign city, unwatched, unbound, irresponsible. But here, in the awkward and comfortable warmth of the Maison Gay Saber, I am thinking of all these things and of our culture's love of and prejudice against objects, and trying to parse out the differences between matter and materialism. Obviously, it is not a mere matter of the objects themselves being different, but also of the social and the spiritual relationship obtaining among them, of the process of creating, transmitting, sharing, or treasuring them, of a ritual of exchange. Of course, good bohemians have always known how to love objects in ways that take them out of the context of the marketplace, objects that make us dream, finding treasures in junk shops and in attics. And I immediately discovered in Francine a kindred spirit of aesthetic spiritual materiality when she showed me lovingly her many treasures, some chipped, some torn, each one a poem in itself, each holding its own story, a past, an aroma. It strikes me that my visit here is itself an object lesson in the sort of decommodification Mauss points to, since there is no real purpose or product to speak of, besides a sort of ineffable mystical mingling of material and spiritual substances. For the material environment is very present in my intellections and musings, from the churned up, tilled fields of rich soil, to the fences woven of thin, dark rushes, to the winding wooden staircase in the 16th century house, to the warm figs and delicious soft cheeses, to the dry wood crackling in the old sooty fireplace with its cast iron grate and its old pan for roasting chestnuts and cast iron foot warmer, and the white gray ashes that must be taken out back in a pail, along with the colorful redolent food scraps and the cheese rinds for the chickens. I'm going to stop there. So, yeah. Thank you, and I also wanted to say congratulations to my fellow prize winners, Philip and Emma.